First question is, do you think America is great?
No. Do I think America's great? I have to say, yeah, it's pretty great to an extent.
What about it is great?
I think that we have more freedom than other countries to do things here, but that's probably the only thing that's pretty great about it. You know, I'm able to go to school, you know, I'm able to vote, I'm able to do all these other things, and in other countries I probably couldn't be able to do that. But that's probably the only thing that I really like, is the freedom of doing things.
So my first question is, do you think America is great?
Were you already filming?
Yeah.
Ok, alors oui, je pense que l'Amérique est super, c'est pour ça que je suis ici. J'aime beaucoup le côté ambitieux de la France et le fait qu'il est possible de faire ce qu'on veut. Oh, de l'Amérique, pardon. Il est possible de faire ce qu'on veut à partir du moment où on s'en donne les moyens. Voilà.
Et vous?
Yes, I think America is great. That's why I'm an American citizen now.
America.
America, hell yeah. No, I don't know. Just the fact that I always tell this, but America is basically just a lot of countries put together into one place. It's like the land of many immigrants, and you always find a place where you can just call home. As soon as I got here, people just made me feel welcome and all that. That's why I didn't feel any. I actually felt like I was part of something for once, because I've been traveling about and all that, but America was really where I felt that I don't know how to explain that.
Okay. So the first question is, do you think America is great?
That's a hard question. Yeah, I think so.
In what ways?
Well, despite all the controversy and everything that's going on, we're still surviving as a mixed group of individuals. Having a heterogeneous society like this isn't easy, and there's bound to be like a lot of fighting. But I think the fact that we've kept it together this long and still have the degree of prosperity we do has to say something for it.
All right. So my first question is, do you think America is great?
Yeah, America is great. Yeah, depending on how you look at it, in terms of providing opportunities for people who are hardworking and want to realize their dream. Yes, America is great, and I think that coming here, I have gotten so many opportunities to develop myself academically and professionally, which I wouldn't have gotten at home. And so, yeah, America is great.
So the first one is, do you think America is great?
Yes, absolutely.
What about it?
Just the people, the culture, that is diversity, education.
I think it can be great in some ways, but at the same time, I feel like it's not right now at the moment.
What about it isn't?
I think that isn't. It's just probably like the social aspect of it, and everyone probably with the election and just still trying to like everyone being comfortable with being like diverse and everything.
Okay. Do you guys think America is great?
No.
No, why not?
Current election.
Actually, yeah. Good point.
Tutti.
The first question is, do you think America is great?
Yeah, I think so. America is great.
Why?
Because it's different. It's capitalism. Where I come from, it's socialism. It is great. I like the United States. How about it's a meritocracy?
The first question I have for you is, do you think America is great?
Not really. No, I don't have a lot of like patriotism, I guess. I've never really felt like the country was that awesome, although I do like some of our developments in like technology and healthcare and stuff like that, but like maybe as far as how we treat our citizens, not that great.
Okay. Do you think we can make it great again, or make it great?
Probably. But I mean, like, there's so many people that have like this different perception of what great is that you have too many conflicting like ideologies so it's just impossible.
This year I began to feel that I had done a deep disservice to myself by convincing myself that my way of thinking is the best way of solving problems and that my perspective on the world was the sole right one. My liberal education supposedly taught me to think in many ways, but I felt that I only thought in one. So I set out to really try and find out how my peers felt about the world around them. I wanted to see whether or not they did think of the world in terms of black and white, or if it was maybe more gray, as mine had become. I didn't want to fight or share my opinions on things, but listen to theirs. I wanted to know if they kept up on international news like me, if they were afraid of their futures like I am, how they feel about the presidential election, that in my opinion has fractured, but not necessarily broken, the United States. Were we really heading backwards?
This country has potential, I guess, but I've never seen it ever, so not really.
Because I feel like there's a lot of inequality, especially in terms of income, and the fact that like the top 5% or whatever is growing, and there's still a ton of the middle class who aren't growing, and as well as the lower class. And there's also a lot of poverty in the suburbs and the city right now, and I feel like the only way a lot of times that's being solved is through development, where they just tear down those neighborhoods, and that results in gentrification, which I don't believe is necessarily the right solution in a lot of places. So I just feel like America has too much inequality right now to be considered great.
I would sit in classes with a Socratic seminar method, listening to people complain about how our immigration system is broken, but not pose solutions or go out and do anything about it. I would listen as my peers would get angry and upset at anything that wasn't what they believed was right, without listening to what they think is wrong. I began to sit back and realize that maybe I wasn't surrounded with an environment that was open and free, but rather one where the more liberal ideas were those that shaped the campus, and ultimately left those who had different ideas or beliefs alone in a hostile environment. Was I really in an inclusive learning environment, or was I just in the majority, leaving a minority of different-minded students out? Were there those who didn't feel free? Are there dimensions to this freedom?
I mean, I guess I feel free in the sense that I don't feel as though the government or some higher power is telling me what I have to do with my life. I feel like I do have choices about what I want to do and where I want to go. If I want to move away, no one can tell me I can't. If I'm interested in pursuing my own passions, there's no one telling me I can't do that or that I shouldn't do that. So for me, I see freedom as more of a personal freedom.
Do you feel free?
For the most part, although I do feel like my freedoms are being taken away slowly. I mean, with all the, a lot of like this, sort of like the snooping the NSA is doing and stuff like that's getting really creepy, and a lot more with technology and stuff like that. It's just, we're slowly losing our privacy.
Do you feel free in your day-to-day life?
I do. I don't feel oppressed. I don't feel like anyone's watching me. I feel like I'm living my life the way I want to.
As a straight white female, I'm very privileged. The only time that, I don't, for the most part, I feel free, like pretty free. I've had very good opportunities, so.
So my friend Will Slattery wrote this essay. If I can find it for you, I'll give it to you if you want it. But it's about what it's like to be gay in 2016. And right, I'm gay, and I present as cis. I present as straight. I pass very easily. And I'm white, and I come from a wealthy family. So my privilege, I have much more privilege than other people who are gay, or, in any other marginalized population. But what it's like on a day-to-day basis is what he says is closets on closets on closets. You have to come out over and over and over again. So for example, when students come into my office and they remark on my engagement ring, I then have to say that my fiance did a great job, and then they ask about him. And then I have to come out, right? I have to come out when, someone comments on, what my wedding, they ask me what I did over Thanksgiving break, which I went wedding dress shopping. So I have to come out again. I had to come out to my landlord when my landlord realized that Leela and I were moving in together in the same house and didn't understand why. Like, he thought we were best friends. No. So it's just closet on closet on closet, and that's limited freedom, or I guess a limited feeling of acceptance maybe too, which I think could be linked to freedom. As a white, comfortable, cis, gay woman, I think that there are other people with much more limited freedoms. For example, when I drive through all of the border patrol stops in Arizona, they look at my face, they see my eyes are blue, they let me go. Whereas if I'm in the car with my friend Miguel, they're gonna stop us, and they've stopped us before, and things get awkward. Yeah.
I had so many opportunities here, school, work, and mostly about education.
You can live your dream.
Yeah, you can also live your dream, live happy, live freely,
Freedom,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
I guess. Do you feel free in your day-to-day life?
I do.
In what ways?
I'm safe in my home. I have very few worries about being bombed or about being shot in my day-to-day life. I worry as much as any woman about sexual violence, but I live in a safe neighborhood. I live in a white neighborhood, and I recently found out that my neighbor's house was actually broken into, which surprised me. But it also didn't make me scared, and I think that in part the fact that I don't have to worry on a day-to-day basis that my bodily integrity is going to be violated gives me an enormous amount of freedom. I earn a wage that means I have enough to eat every day. It means I have health care if I need it. I am able-bodied, and so I can ride my bike around. I don't own a car. I have to pay my bills, I have to pay my rent, I have to come to work every day to continue to have that safety net, but I'm single, I'm childless, I've never felt like I have to do those things to be free. I have my own bank accounts, I have my own lines of credit.
For the most part, yes. I think that, the whole, I think that we are free, but I think as a society that we kind of push each other to do better and to be better. So, I could live my whole life without a college degree, I could live my whole life without a job, but if you really want any kind of respect from people and you really want what you want, then you kind of do have to work for it. So yeah, you're not really free. You're free whenever, whenever you feel like you have enough money for it, I think.
But if I were to manage my time more, I would be free. And in cases like, let's say like America makes me free, I guess I would say I'm more free because the United States offers more opportunities that I would have here than compared to somewhere like Mexico and something like that, because you can do anything here, and in other places like Mexico, you can do anything you want, but it's just harder to go into it because you won't have the support that you get here.
Okay, yes, I'm free in a sense, in a way, but I think freedom depends on the person and then also their social status, I would say, because in general society will, kind of do something in a way that limits you to do certain things. So I'm free to walk about and do everything I want, but at the same time I kind of put myself restraints to what I can do because of who I am.
Do you feel free?
No,
Why not?
because I feel like the vast majority of the things in my life that should be my choice are predetermined either by rules, regulations, or cultural mores.
I'm not free to do everything that I want to because I have responsibilities. So I wish I could go to San Francisco every weekend, but I can't because I have papers to grade or papers to write, and I can't afford it. Yes, I'm free, but no, I'm not, because when you're a grown up, you have things to do.
Freedom, I have decided, is hard to define, harder than I initially thought. Every one of my interviews posed a different type of freedom than I had anticipated, and the range of personal freedoms astounded me. To me, freedom was always somehow linked to happiness, and as the year continued on, I grew more scared of my future in post-college life. Would I get the job I wanted? Would I make enough money? Would I be happy or free?
How would you describe the feeling you get when you imagine life after college?
Scary and exciting.
What do you hope to have, to be, or to feel in the future?
I hope to feel security, not just financially, but with my happiness. I want to make sure I'm doing something that I like to do. I don't want to just settle in a job that I hate, so just some sort of security.
I feel a little overwhelmed sometimes just because there's so much to do and to learn about how to survive in the real world once you're done with school. But excited also to see what the future brings.
How would you describe the feeling you get when you imagine life after college and into the future?
Trepidation.
Why?
Mostly because I don't know if there's going to be a job for me in the future, and also I don't know what's going to be happening. I mean, we have international political rivalries with countries that have nuclear armaments. We have constant warfare, and we have constant conflict here at home. I just sort of worried about the future in general.
Has there ever been a time in your life when you look around at your friends, family, acquaintances, and realize that you've surrounded yourself with like-minded people? It was going into my senior year in the midst of the first presidential election I could vote in, tensions between nation-states rising, a refugee crisis changing the way people can migrate, where I started to realize that maybe those I surround myself with aren't the only opinions and ideas out there. I began to wonder if it's true that college campuses are often more liberal than conservative because of the exchanging of ideas and the learning about new cultures, about new peoples. Maybe I thought this way simply because I had been surrounded with people who were more socially liberal, and I wanted to know how my peers viewed our generation.
I feel as though it's really easy for someone like me to assume that a lot of people are liberal, or our generation is liberal, because I'm at a university. And if you go to universities, that's typically the areas that are more liberal. And so in that regard, maybe, because, I don't know, I imagine that more people are going to the universities. Maybe not for the right reasons, but it's happening.
Yeah. It's true.
And so I think that might have a slight increase on creating a more liberal society, but overall, I think it's changed not that much.
Really?
But I do think it has changed.
Yeah, I feel like we're progressing to be more liberal in general.
I think we're a little bit too ethnocentric to be super liberal. Like we live in a country where we're like, we're the best country in the world, and then we completely disregard everyone else. So it's like, okay, well, we have no knowledge on anyone else. We have no idea of what's actually going on. We're not educated in that regard, so it's hard to be like, we're liberal, or we're changing into be more liberal when we're circulating the same information constantly.
And I'm a citizen, but I just feel like I'm not even sure how to I don't know. I feel like there's hope lost. There's just so much conservativeness is not good. There's a point to where it's enough. But now that it's 2016, we're advancing, we're going into 2020, into a new decade, and ending this decade more than halfway there. I don't know what could happen.
I think that our generation honestly couldn't care less. I've talked to a lot of people about their political leanings, about what they believe, and they say as long as nothing happens to me, then I'm okay with whatever happens. Of course, that's a very dangerous ideology because a lot of people are becoming complacent
with a lot of the injustices that are happening either in America or worldwide. A lot of people, for example, don't care if people are having their rights taken away, or if people are being sort of suppressed at the hands of the majority. For example, a lot of people believe that America should be a true democracy instead of a representative republic like we are. So I think that a lot of people, with their lack of understanding of history and their lack of understanding of our current political system, tend to lean in a direction that favors themselves more than anyone else. And I think that there's a mix of conservative and liberal beliefs in that selfishness. But honestly, I think that most of our generation just couldn't care less. Either way.
I think generally more liberal, but I've had the benefit of moving from a state that was kind of turning more red in central Missouri to coming down here to a state that was very red, kind of turning a little more blue, especially in a county that we're in here in Tucson that is the bluest county in all of the state. So my opinion based off of the observances I've had may be biased, and that just from what I've seen as I've come to observe those things, I see our generation as being more liberal, but hopefully that is also the case.
Okay, awesome. Is our generation more liberal or conservative, and in what ways?
I think our generation, because of where we were during the recession, I know like my group of friends, the recession happened in our junior year of high school, so suddenly a lot of our college tuitions were threatened. I know I had dreams for going to a bigger, probably more expensive school than I ended up going to. My parents lost a lot of money. So I think largely it is a fiscally conservative generation because of that fear that suddenly everything could be lost. Not to mention, in addition to a bunch of my friends losing potential college tuitions their junior year of high school, they lost job opportunities in high school and college because, I lost a job I had every year in high school and middle school, my junior year of high school, the end of my junior year of high school, because it was gone. They didn't have the money. And it was the same thing when a lot of my friends left college. They had trouble finding jobs. And I think largely I think we're a fiscally conservative generation because of that fear. I think we're socially liberal. And the reason I say that is because, and maybe it's because I've surrounded myself with people who are socially liberal, because I've slowly deleted everyone on Facebook who I think is a racist, homophobic asshole. I will say I think our generation is more socially liberal because they have been exposed to more others than past generations. It's become more of a goal of colleges across the United States to have a diversity component. Whether or not it actually works is a great question, because students complain about it all the time, and as at this school, culture and resource centers are underfunded vastly. But I will say that I think because there's a little bit more pride in who you are, pride as someone who's gay, pride as someone who's trans, pride as someone who is black, pride as someone who is, an immigrant. I think that's more talked about. It's more of an identity, and therefore people, especially white people, are forced to reconcile with it. So I think that in general, I will say that following this election, a lot of people who I didn't expect to be liberal and aware of the effects of this presidency on other people have been very aware, posting all over Facebook, on Pantsuit Nation, everywhere. So I think that we're probably slightly more socially liberal than other generations, but definitely fiscally conservative.
And then last question is, do you feel like our generation is more liberal or conservative, and in what ways?
Ooh, our generation. Liberal because in every change that I've seen in our country moving towards more progressive views, it's always started by younger people, by our generation. and that just has to do with in what ways, in many different ways, in social ways, in the way in which we react to other people is much more liberal, I would say. Much more progressive.
I feel like I can't give an objective answer on that because I only hang out with liberal people and I have a liberal degree. Oh, in general, I would say we're more liberal, but then there's like the random outliers that either have been raised by their parents to be more conservative. But like I've liberal parents, a liberal parent, and have liberal friends, so that's all I encounter.
When Donald Trump won the presidency in November 2016, it felt to me like everything I had believed in and everything that I had thought was right was now wrong. I woke up the next morning and I cried because I didn't understand how people could choose the candidate that I clearly saw as incompetent, angry, dangerous, and even insane. As the weeks have passed and turned to months, I began to wonder about how long people have been underrepresented in our political and cultural system, and thought more about how the United States has changed what I believe fundamental parts of our culture in such a small amount of time. Then I thought about how change happens. It doesn't often happen in large sweeping motions, but rather as one person feels that they don't have a voice, and that spreads. We've seen it in the Deep South, the sweeping plains of the Midwest, even in the heart of an almost social democracy in its own right, California. So what does this mean when thinking about my home for the past 4 years, where I've learned so much about myself, about the world? I think it means that not everything is as straightforward as we are taught to believe. The world never works in terms of black and white, and while I've surrounded myself with like-minded people who share similar opinions as mine, so too have those who have the exact opposite ideas and opinions. These interviews represent a small percentage of the University of Arizona campus over the 2016-2017 school year, and I've learned more about my peers doing this project than I did about them through my classes over the past 4 years.
Not a pen.
Hey, I'm working on my honors thesis. Would you guys be willing to answer a couple questions? It should take longer than like 3 minutes. You can say no if you want.
Shake hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. You can stay where you sit.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, go now.